In schools of Hinduism and Buddhism, and in other spiritual climates besides, one will find devotees using sets of prayer beads, the mala, with 108 beads. Why is this? Why this peculiar number? Why does the mala have 108 beads? We can find explanations, none of them convincing, and most of them post hoc folk explanations. Some god ordained it, or there are, they say, 108 attendants of Shiva, or there are 108 Upanishads in the canon. In Japanese temples, a bell is rung 108 times at the end of one year and the beginning of the new. They say the chimes represent the 108 temptations that are obstacles to reaching nirvana. But in fact, the string of 108 beads is a remnant of a sacred mathematics that was once widely known in the ancient world, both East and West. As the New Year bells in Japan would suggest, it is a mathematics that concerns cosmic cycles. For the most part it has been lost, or else it has been submerged under mythologies and obscured by being absorbed into other accounts of the cycles of the world, such as the Vedic Yugas. There was, however, once a deep mathematical understanding with expressions in geometry and arithmetic. Only remnants of it survive, such as the 108 prayer beads. But we do have a full account of its formulae, although presented in a deeply cryptic manner. It is a passage found in Plato in his most famous dialogue, the Republic. Socrates has been describing the ideal state, but then deals with the problem that, although ideal, this perfect commonwealth must inevitably fall apart. This is the way of the world. Over time, political constitutions decline, moving from the rule of philosopher kings to the rule of tyrants. Moreover, the quality of men declines, and the philosophical temperament grows thin among them. At length, base and appetitive souls come to rule the world. Why is this inevitable? There is a certain number, Socrates says, that contains the secrets of this process. It happens, he says, because at length children are born at the wrong time, unseasonable marriage. The key to this is this number. It's thus known as the nuptial number, the number that governs seasonable marriage. But Socrates is not going to tell us the number. Instead, he provides an extraordinary account of how to find it. It's perhaps the weirdest thing in all of Plato, certainly Plato's most opaque mathematical puzzle. Let us have a quick look at what Socrates says. It's at Republic 546b. We don't have to pretend to know what it means. Socrates says, "Now for divine begettings there is a period comprehended by a perfect number, and for mortals by the first, in which augmentations dominating and dominated, when they have attained to 3 distances and 4 limits of the assimilating and disassimilating, the waxing and waning, render all things conversable and commensurable with one another, whereof a basal 4/3 wedded to the pentad yields 2 harmonies at the 3rd augmentation, the one the product of equal factors taken 100 times, the other of equal length one way but oblong, one dimension of 100 numbers determined by the rational diameters of the pentad, lacking 1 in each case, or of the irrational lacking 2, the other dimension of 100 cubes of the triad. And this entire geometrical number is determinative of this thing, of better and inferior births." The Greek is dense, to say the least. It is a passage that has had readers of Plato, scholars and translators confounded since ancient times. Perhaps it's a joke. Plato cannot be accused of being straightforward. What is Socrates on about here? What of this geometrical number determinative of better and inferior births? This is the number that explains why the world winds down, why the cycles of history decline, why the ideal state will eventually fall apart. But what is this number? The formula in Greek is fantastically mysterious. We're not going to battle through the Greek or try to work our way through ancient Greek mathematical conventions. We leave that to classicists who are also mathematicians. The best book that does this is The Nuptial Number by James Adam, published in 1892. There are several ways to tackle the problem mathematically, and yet, remarkably, there is general agreement on what this number is. It is an important number of the sexagesimal scale that emerges, namely 12,960,000, or 60 times 60 times 60 times 60. Socrates' description is geometric, but in the end it is generally agreed by those who can make their way through it that the number he is talking about is nothing other than 12,960,000. This is Plato's number, the nuptial number, the great cipher of cosmic cycles. It is here that Plato preserves a mathematics that is demonstrably far wider known in ancient times than just Greece. As a base 60 number for a start, it is no doubt Babylonian. George Barton studied this in his 1908 publication on the Babylonian origin of Plato's nuptial number. But it has origins much more ancient still. Let us consider what it amounts to and draw out its implications. None of this is at all explicit in Plato's text. He merely provides clues. He gives the number and signals its function. But beyond that, it's a matter of contemplation. Here in part is the upshot of it. In the great year, in the full cycle, from the philosopher king to the tyrant, there are 12,960,000 days. This is 36,000 years, because 36,000 times 360 is 12,960,000. Moreover, this is 480,000 months, because 480,000 times 27 is 12,960,000. More, if the human lifespan is calculated as 72 years, then there are 500 generations between philosopher king and tyrant, because 72 times 360 times 500 is 12,960,000, and so on. What we discover is that a whole series of cosmological cycles are resolved in this number. If we have this number, we have a key to the human calculations of time and to the inner workings of the cosmos. At very least, the physical cosmos approximates this ideal mathematics. When the Platonist wakes up in the morning, he can ask himself, which of these 12,960,000 days is this? And which of the 36,000 years? And under which of the 480,000 moons? And which of the 500 generations of men prevails? The nuptial number is prodigiously fertile. There is much more to be discovered than this. How it governs good and bad births and leads to the decline in political constitutions is another matter, but the number is concerned with cosmological cycles. And the number 108 is a part of this series because 108 times 120,000 is 12,960,000. 108 seems like an odd number. It's not a prime, it's mathematically undistinguished. Why is it a magical or blessed number in certain traditions? Why is it lucky to some? Why are there 108 beads on a mala string? Because the string itself, the loop of the string, represents the full cycle. Each bead represents 120,000 days. To count the beads, to make the prayer, means participating in, being in sympathy with the great cycles of cosmic time. Each round of the beads rehearses the cycle. In traditions seeking liberation from the cycle, there are 108 obstacles, 108 earthly passions, 108 defilements. The cosmological symbolism is even more obvious, explicit, in ringing 108 chimes at the end of each year. That, in short, is why there are 108 beads, and the significance of 108 in certain spiritual traditions, regardless of whatever other explanations might be provided. It is a remnant of this Platonic mathematics.